Hey, I'm Chase and this is All Things Rim. Today, we're talking about your first luxury watch. Okay, so before we get started, what am I wearing today? I am wearing my Rolex Hulk on an aftermarket rubber strap with the AKN links that allow it to seamlessly go into the band. I love this watch. We are not talking about this watch, and this watch isn't even close to being on this list as being your first luxury watch. Now, what do I mean by buying your first luxury watch? Well, anybody can argue that Grand Seiko is a great watch. However, the watches on this list are going to be Swiss only, at least in this video. In the future, we'll dive into a lot more, but generally when people think of luxury watches, they think of Swiss branding. Now we're going to go over different tiers and different options that you have if you're really looking in to getting your feet wet in the luxury watch market. Now, honestly, there are a few things that I would recommend first before going out and spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on your first luxury watch. First, you want to understand exactly what you're purchasing the watch for. Is it for everyday wear? And if it is for everyday wear, then you want something with at least 100 meters of water resistance. If you want something just for dress, maybe to wear around the office, maybe you got that nice job that now you're wearing a suit and not a Baby Yoda shirt, but a suit and a tie, and you just want to look great, well, in no way do I have any dress watches on this list. However, a lot of the watches I have on the list will work in that arena as well. So what's the first on the list? The first on the list when it comes to price tiering is going to be the lowest tier, and that's going to be under $1,000. Now the first one is going to be the Tissot. Now I love Tissot, and the one that I chose is the Tissot V8, and this is a mix between a sports watch and a diving style watch. Now I love Tissot. In fact, I have a Tissot right here. I own a Tissot. I've owned this Tissot for about 8 years. Now this one was $1,500 when I first got it, and this is the C-Star. And you know what? This is a thick, huge watch. The one that I chose for this list is 42 millimeters. It does have its own in-house movement, which is arguable when it comes to Swiss movements, whether or not they're truly in-house or whether or not they're modified ETA movements or modified Sellita movements, but I digress. This watch right here runs at 3 Hertz and has a power reserve of 72 hours, which means it can stay off your wrist for quite a long time before you need to wind it up or wear it again to power it some more. Now, this watch, again, offers great water resistance, has a great look. It is very sporty. You can change the straps. You can get one with a bracelet. You can get one with a rubber strap, or you can switch it out for a leather strap or something like a NATO. This watch, again, under $1,000. In fact, it's under $800. Take a look. Now, the next that I'm going to have on this list is going to be a Hamilton. And I have to throw out Hamilton because it is definitely one of my favorite watches. This is my Hamilton Khaki Big Pilot. This watch was $1,000 when my wife bought it. You can get it right now at Joma Shop for like $800, $700. It is not the highest priced watch. However, it is extremely high quality. It does have an ETA movement inside. It's not an in-house movement. It's an ETA 2824-2, has the date complication. And you know what? This thing has been through a lot over the years and it still looks great. In fact, even though this is a pilot's watch, it offers 200 meters of water resistance. That's very difficult to say for a lot of other pilot's watches. Again, Hamilton is a brand that is very well known in the watch community, and it is a true luxury brand. Now, the next watch on this list is a little higher up, and it is a Christopher Ward. Now, I personally have never owned a Christopher Ward, but I have watched a lot about Christopher Ward. I've lusted after the Christopher Ward C1 moon phase for quite a long time. If you guys saw my moon phase video, I'll link it up here. You know that I love the Christopher Ward moon phase, but at around $1,500, it's just a little out of my price range right now. So I found an alternative. However, for you, I'd recommend something like the Christopher Ward Trident. or something similar, still in the dive style. I gave you a dive style watch, then a pilot's watch, now another dive style watch. Now, Christopher Ward, this watch specifically has the Sellita SW200 movement, and it is a great movement. They spend a lot of time decorating the rotors, decorating the movements, and overall, it's a great watch. Now, the watch brand is not something with 100 years of history. It is relatively new in the last couple decades. But you know what? It does offer a lot of bang for your buck, and Christopher Ward is growing in popularity every single year. It is a great watch, great quality. It's gonna last a lifetime, and it's not gonna break the bank. Okay, now we're gonna jump in tiers. Now we're gonna go over $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and it depends on whether or not you go new or used. Now, in the watch market that I'm talking about right now, in the higher end, I wouldn't go past 20 years unless you really want to deal with the headaches of vintage watches. However, any watch I would say that was designed through the late 90s into today has great technology. It's going to last for a long time as long as it's been serviced at proper intervals. Now, it's arguable when it comes to proper intervals, when it comes to like something like Rolex. They say every 5 years, but there are plenty of people who do it every 10 years and the watch is just fine. In fact, you know, it is a Rolex, but that's not what we're talking about today, at least right now. Today, we're talking about Rolex's little brother, or at least generally that's what we're talking about normally when we speak of Tudor, and we're talking about the Tudor Black Bay. Now, the Tudor Black Bay is a great watch, and anywhere used, they can start as little as $2,800 and go as high as $4,500, if not more, if you get it brand new, especially in today's market. However, the Tudor Black Bay has a lot of heritage behind it. In fact, for a long time, it was using Rolex parts. It was a subsidiary of Rolex. Now, that hasn't really changed. However, Tudor has separated themselves a little bit when it comes to the movements they use, which are completely in-house. They no longer use Rolex parts. However, they still have a great horological significance in the watch community. They're very well known, very high quality, and this is going to last you just as long as any high-end Rolex, but for half the price in some models. Some models are far more expensive, but we're talking about something similar like a Submariner, right? Offers 200 meters of water resistance, and you can either leave it on the bracelet or you can put it on something like a leather strap and it still look amazing. Now, the last two on the list are going to be in the Rolex category, only because a lot of people see Rolex as a symbol of a extreme life event. That's what it was like for me. When I came back from a deployment, I was like, man, I got this money. I really want to get myself something nice. And I bought myself the Rolex Hulk that's on my wrist right now. And I've had it ever since. And that was back in 2011. But a lot of people symbolize something like graduating college, getting a new job, signifying a major life event by purchasing a Rolex. Now, the two I'm going to talk about are the Oyster Perpetual, which is the basic line of Rolexes, and then the Rolex Explorer. Now, anybody who has been a fan of this channel has heard me talk about Rolex Explorer for a very long time, and we're talking about the Explorer 1, not the Explorer 2. The Explorer 1 is very subdued in its styling, and it matches basically everything. Now, I say the same thing about the Oyster Perpetual. It's not overly done, at least not the prior releases, prior to the 2020 releases of all their enamel dials with all the bright pastel colors. I'm not talking about those necessarily. I'm talking about something simple like a black or silver dial. Now, these things are great watches. They carry the Rolex brand, and they have a lot of bang and heritage behind who they are. Now, a Rolex Oyster Perpetual, again, is on the lower end. It's not gonna cost you as much as a Submariner, and neither is the Rolex Explorer. Now, for me, personally, I would choose the 39mm Explorer. They do make the 36mm Explorer prior to the 39mm. However, I really like the look of the 39mm. The 36 is just slightly too small. I think the only Rolex I would ever have that's 36mm would be the Datejust. Now, if you guys have any other ideas, leave them down below in the comments. If you disagree with me, if you agree with me, just go ahead and leave them in the comments. Now, if you like videos and videos like this, hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment of the content you guys would like to see on this channel. I have a lot of videos coming up in the future, but right now I'm redoing my entire kitchen as a DIY video. Now, with anything else, if you don't pay someone to do it and you don't spend a lot of money paying for everything to be brand new, well, any DIY people know that you end up putting a lot of hours in, a lot of the blood, sweat comes out of you, and that's where a lot of the cost savings is. So right now I'm refinishing the cabinets. I'm gonna do an epoxy marble countertop, and I am taking down the cabinets to do open shelving. And basically the last 2 weeks have been consumed with that, and next week is going to be consumed also. Now I am going to do a video to show you exactly what I did with my kitchen, how I spent under $800 to completely remodel the entire kitchen. Now is it done yet? No, but I basically have everything I need to finish the process. It's a matter of just getting it down and doing it. Now that video is going to be released in a couple weeks for the DIY section. If you guys are interested, take a look at the prior videos that I've done. Now again, I'm gonna try to keep releasing videos. It's just hard to find time in between because guess what? Not only am I doing the kitchen, but I'm also doing school in the middle of this pandemic with my kids in the morning, and I'm going to work at 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. So hit that notification bell so you guys can be notified when I drop that next video. Till next time.